Hi everybody, Kirsten here, and I was asked to make a video about dystopian books, and since the dystopian subgenre of YA takes up the majority of my shelves, I thought that I would take the time to talk about them. Because there are so many different dystopian books out there, and there's different kinds for everybody. There are dystopian novels that skirt the fine line of sci-fi or even paranormal, so I'm just going to leave those ones out of this video. So today I'm going to be talking about just straight up dystopian books. There are going to be some underrated dystopian novels in here, as well as some of the bigger dystopians and some unread that I have that I'm excited about reading. So I'm just going to go ahead and get straight into this because this is probably going to be a pretty long video. I personally love dystopian books. They were some of the first YA books that I had read back in the summer of 2010. My girlfriend Natalie, she got me into reading again after I had gone through this horrible reading slump after The Deathly Hallows came out. I wasn't able to pick up another book for years, like literally years. The reason why I read dystopian is not only because I love seeing young women and young men standing up for themselves and standing up for the rights of people, but I also see that that's where we're going. We're almost bordering in a dystopian society currently, and it's scary. And I think the reason why I read these books is because it kind of gives me hope that it won't always be this way. And I do also think that it's one of the reasons why dystopian books kind of are falling out. People aren't writing dystopian books that much anymore. And I think it is because everyone's so terrified that this is where our country is going. And so there's like a big surge of contemporary books right now because everybody wants just to read something fluffy and something amazing and something that makes you feel good. But sometimes you need to read the gritty dystopians and scary sci-fis and all of that to kind of put it into perspective that things won't always be this bad. So that's why I read them. And one of the first books that she got me into was The Hunger Games, which is my favorite dystopian trilogy. Without a doubt, it's my favorite. And it isn't just because it's the first one I read. I think it has the best themes, and it really does speak to a generation that is terrified of what is going to happen to us. And the reason why I love this book series so much is because Katniss is not your typical heroine. And I'm saying that because when I came into the world of YA and into the dystopian YA fiction world, I was used to seeing, these virginal Mother Teresa heroines that are always doing everything right that they're supposed to do, always end up with the man that they love, always do all of these things exactly the right way, and are always in line. So, I mean, this was like one of those first books that I read where a girl was thrust into a situation that she didn't want to be in, and she made it vocal that she didn't want to be in it, but she still did it because she had to for her family and to survive. And it's amazing the things that we'll do, the lengths that we go into to make sure that we survive and that our families are intact and safe. I think a lot of people spend way too much time worrying about the romance between Katniss and Peeta in this book instead of really looking at how important the story actually is. It's a young woman saving her family. Okay, so the next dystopian series that I'm going to talk about is also a part of a now successful movie franchise, and the second movie is being filmed right now, and that is the Divergent Trilogy by Veronica Roth. I didn't read these books until Legend came out. I didn't want to start reading it and then have to worry about the next book, so I waited until Legend came out. I do love Tris. I do think that the first book is better than the other two. I really think Divergent could have been a standalone. I do think that slowly throughout these books, the voice of Tris and the voice of the author kind of gets lost and gets messed up a little bit in there, and the third book by itself almost seems like it was written by a completely different person. I love these books, not necessarily just because of Tris, but I love them because of Four. I love Four. He's like one of my favorite book boys. I just can't even help it. I just like super love him. And these books are about a society starting an experiment to kind of keep the people in line. The world that they live in is just a giant social experiment. So it just kind of like takes you on this like crazy ride of learning about it, trying to figure out why, and then the end. And it's just kind of, it's all kind of crazy. There's so much stuff that happens. So many people die. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride from the beginning to the end. Now, the next series is my second favorite YA dystopian series, and that is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. The last book in the series comes out soon. I want to say in like 25 days, the last book comes out in the Afterlight. This series takes a darker turn on dystopian. Dystopians are dark in general, but this one just takes it to a whole nother place. I think that's why I love them so much. and it almost has kind of like a Holocaust-y feel in the beginning. Is kind of scary. So it's really great. It's about a bunch of Psy youth. What happens in America at some point in time in the not so distant future, there's a sickness that hits these children once they hit puberty, and they either die or they end up Psy youth, which are psychic youth. They have these amazing powers, and they all have a different classification for the powers that they have, and they all get sent into these camps because no one knows what to do with these kids. And so they all get sent into camps, and it follows our protagonist Ruby, and she's scared. She's a little lamb. She's like a scared little lamb when you meet her, because she's been in this camp for Lord knows how long. It's been years, and she doesn't interact with other people, and she's scared, and she has a power that has been eradicated. These kids are being killed off because of their powers, and so these books follow her journey trying to kind of save these kids from these camps, and it's so amazing, and I love this series. I couldn't put it down. It's the only dystopian series that has made me bawl my eyes out. Both books have made me cry, and they're just so amazing, and the antagonists are great. It's so well written. The characters are well written. It's so rich in story, and I absolutely love these books, and I definitely recommend anyone read them if you have not yet. So the next dystopian series that I have is the Shatter Me Trilogy by Tahara Mafi, and I love these books. I really do. There is a love-hate relationship with these books. I think in the book community, people either love them or they hate them. And I think it's because a lot of people don't get past the first book. Because Juliet in the first two books is an unreliable narrator. She just really is. There's cross out. She's constantly second-guessing herself because she has been reduced to the shell of a person because in her entire life, people have just put her down because she has a special power that she touches people and they die. So, I mean, she has the special power and people are terrified of her. She's terrified of herself. She's terrified of being in her own skin, and people can't touch her. So she obviously, you know, the first time she finds out someone can touch her, she falls in love with him, and it's just like this crazy story. And I don't want people to judge this series on the first book alone. If you have read the first book and you didn't like it, please just power through and read Unravel Me, because things really start to make more sense, and she starts to make more sense as a narrator, and she becomes this amazing woman in the last book, and I absolutely love these books. Aaron Warner is next to the Darkling. He is my favorite boy in books that is an antagonist, but not really. He's more of an anti-hero than an antagonist. He's more of an anti-hero, but I really love him. I really do. I love Aaron Warner, and I love these books, and I reread them all the time. I think they're absolutely amazing, and the story is great. Also, another book that deals with young people that have powers that they don't know where they came from, and it's never really explained, but they have powers, and it's really great, and I love these books. Okay, the next book series I'm going to talk about is Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. There is kind of a sci-fi element to them, and that is just the ether that's in the sky, and kind of how the world is in this dystopian society where the sky is killing off the world, and it's just crazy. Storms are causing people to go into hiding. These people that live on the outskirts of compounds that Arya is a part of when you first meet her in the first book, they have special powers because they've had to adapt and evolve to survive this crazy ether storm that is going on outside. It's my favorite dystopian romance. The romance element is great. There's no love triangle. It's just awesome, and Arya ends up being like a super badass. I love that a lot of these girls start meek and end up just totally kicking butt, and I just really love it. The next book series I have, and is completely underrated and more people should read, is the Legend Trilogy by Marie Lu. These books are fantastic, and I don't see enough people reading them. There's just so many dystopian books to choose from, and people don't really know what to read. This is one of those books that I think everyone should read, and not enough people are, because it is just coming at the tail end of Hunger Games and Divergent and all of that. It has two narrators. It's June and Day, and the great thing about these books is they're people of color. And so I think that's really important for people to read in a dystopian as well, because it is so saturated. White girls with dark hair saving shit, you know? So I'm really glad that these books exist and everyone should read them. It's one of the more believable dystopians that I've read. You know, America has quarantined itself off from the rest of the world, and not only that, but it split itself in two, and there's a test that goes on inside of the part of America that these books take place in, where children at the age of 11 have to take an aptitude test, and it puts them into the certain professions that they're going to have for the rest of their lives and their financial brackets. And if they don't make a certain score on the test, then they kill these children off. For population control. It's nuts. And these two people, June and Day, are trying to change that. And so it's really great. I love these books and everyone should read them. Okay, so the next dystopian I have is for someone that wants to read a more girly version of a dystopian. And I am saying girly because that's exactly what this is. It's a princess dystopian, and that is the Selection series by Kiera Cass. I wasn't a big fan of these books, although I bought all of them and I read all of them. There's not a lot of world building. It's supposed to be a dystopian, but there's not a lot of world building, and there's just so many things that happen that aren't unanswered. But if you like kind of like a Bachelor feel and you want to see someone become a princess in a dystopian world, these are definitely books for that. The next books I have are the Maze Runner trilogy by James Dashner. I feel like guys would really like these books because it's all guys basically except for one person. I know a lot of people love these books. I just wasn't a fan. I do feel like they're a little bit on the sexist side. I know that there are some themes that other people would absolutely love. The characters are really well written. I just couldn't really get into them. I want to talk about another dystopian series, and that is the Delirium trilogy by Lauren Oliver. I don't have physical copies of those books. I just have them on my Nook, and my Nook won't turn on, so I can't like show you the covers or anything. I loved those books as well. Those are more of a romance dystopian. It's about a society that deems love as a disease, and so when you hit a certain age, they inject you with a serum that gets rid of that part in your brain so that you aren't able to fall in love. And so it helps people run society better. The people that don't take the serum and don't believe that this is the right way to go, they end up living outside of these places in the wild, and it's just crazy, and it's really good. And I love Lauren Oliver books. So if you love Lauren Oliver books and you haven't read the Delirium trilogy, I definitely recommend reading those. I have a dystopian series I have not read, and that is The Program. I know that Rob and Manda that I follow on Tumblr, they are absolutely obsessed with these books and they love them. And I started them, but I wasn't in a dystopian mood. And then there's The Young World by Chris Weitz. I haven't read this one yet either, but I plan on reading that soon. So hopefully I will have more to talk about when I read those. That is my video about dystopian. So I hope this helps you if you have any dystopian series that you're curious about reading, to give you a little idea of what they're each about. And hopefully if you guys like this video, I'll do another one about another genre. How's that? That sounds good. All right, everybody have a great week, and I'll see you next time.